putting the timer on already?
Putting the timer on. Wait, what do we want to end to?
I don't know. The last episode we did, we were dangerously over time. You know that, right?
Put this one on because then everybody will look at their phone.
Well, welcome to the podcast, What to Do with Your Old Explicit Content. I am Tom, and you are?
I am Jack.
Hi, Jack.
How are you doing?
Good. We are our numbers are going up, so thank you for everybody that's listened. And
we hear that there's like 4 of you now. And
yeah.
One of you had to get paid $50 to listen to us.
Yeah, I sent for those of you out of the area, we have this thing called the Orleans Hub. And anytime they post something about gas prices, the universe gets disrupted. And they have everybody gets to post their gas price opinion. But they posted a quick article about us that I wrote. And since then, our listenership has...
We had more than quadrupled.
Yeah.
We went from 2 to, what'd you say, like 16?
6 or 8, 10?
Yeah, 10, 12, 14.
Jack's family members, one of them actually caught the bounty. So if you listen to the earlier episodes where we were offering a bounty, mine still have it. No...
That's pretty bad.
I know.
Even with your own PR, your family's still not going to listen to the podcast.
I got 3 sons, 2 of whom actually like me, and I got daughter-in-laws and grandkids and wives and I don't know, nephews, nieces.
Yep. My wife did listen to 1.5.
Oh, well.
Yes, after her eldest listened to it to claim the prize, and then told her she went back and listened to some of the other ones. She said it was actually unexpectedly different than I thought it was going to be, and I liked it.
Different is good. Different is I liked it. What's the topic? We're getting better at delaying the topic. What do we got? We literally don't know what it is until Jack just pulls it out.
Well, our topic was something that came up late last week that I was listening to, and I didn't realize it was a thing. But apparently in the state of Oregon, they have made euthanizing yourself legal. Is that the right way to put it?
Euthanizing yourself?
Well,
I mean, you could authorize.
What's the proper way to...
Because euthanasia, I believe, is when somebody else does it.
Okay, so, well...
Assisted suicide, I think, is
yes, that's...
But I don't know that they call it... I mean, I don't know. It's just, this is like that Jack Kevorkian stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, the end result's pretty much the same.
It's meandering.
But I was listening to something where they were talking about the fact that in the state of Oregon, they made it legal for doctor-assisted suicide, in the cases of chronic illness and stuff like that. And one of the things that's come out of it is a cottage industry.
Yes?
Yes. The cottage industry are Airbnbs that you go rent and you can kill yourself in the Airbnb, and then the state social workers will come up and clean up the mess. And so on and so forth.
Well, that's just straight up suicide. I don't think that's euthanasia.
Well, and not, I shouldn't say kill yourself, but I mean, it's prescribed. No. You have to be prescribed the drugs and stuff like that. But I mean, again, the end result's pretty much the same, isn't it?
I mean, I suppose. I don't. See, now I'm going to get real controversial here.
Go ahead.
When my mom was in hospice and they pulled her off all of her meds and started jacking her up with opioids, it felt a whole lot like assisted suicide to me. Like they have
been there, and I can agree with you.
They were kind of moving along the process a little quicker than I would necessarily have liked them to do. But I don't know that. I
have been assured by good sources that is totally for comfort, and you're not progressing anything other than getting them to relax. But it would seem like, because I know from what they were talking on this program that I was listening to, was the prescriptions that they give you are some type of I don't know if it was a pill or a gel or what it was, but something that when you take it apparently starts to dissolve your organs, so your organs will shut down.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, again, end results being all the same, but I just was a little bit surprised to see that there was actually an industry out there where you could, buy houses and rent them out to people knowing that they were going to end their lives in the house.
Where there's money.
Yeah. But there again, though, doesn't that lend to one of the problems? I mean, is it really? That's what they were talking about. Is it really free will? If you've got a whole group of people standing there going, "Oh yeah, no, this is definitely the right thing to do," you want to do it, but they're all standing to profit from it. It's like, the worker in the factory that is coming to work at a dead end job and isn't really being paid or treated properly.
Did you use the term dead end intentionally?
No, I did not.
That was a bit of a dad joke there.
But he, everybody says, well, it's free will. It's, this is the way it's supposed to work. Well, is it really free will? Because if the guy doesn't work, his family doesn't eat.
Yeah, I don't know. I've read back to the hospice thing, and I've read stuff that said just the opposite. That indeed it's accelerating the death. I mean, it's a controversial topic, so I don't want to beat that. And honestly, it's like anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm an internet sleuth, which means I'm not anybody that's out there listening going, oh, look at me, trying to be an expert on it. I'm just saying from my perspective, it felt gross. It felt kind of gross. They had to take her off all her meds. They had told us that she was going to live for like 3 months, and then she just kind of, went down. And there was a part of me too, and I've never really discussed this until just this minute, that felt that there was a, I don't know, when our doctor said, send her to hospice, we have a space. It was almost like the way that they even presented it as, oh, we have an opening.
We'll take care of it.
We have an opening, so why don't we,
let us clean up the mess.
Instead of sending her to a hospital to die, let's send her to this organization to die. And I realize that a lot of these organizations are not for profit, and they have wonderful people. I mean, your wife works in a hospice, as long as I'm able to say that on the podcast, and she's a beautiful person. But at the end of the day, people make money on that stuff. Like that hospice organization is a not-for-profit. There's still some fairly well-paid administrators, and I'm sure they make decisions based on the financial component of it without the emotional component. Now, could I rent my house out to somebody for an Airbnb to come and have a compassionate suicide or euthanasia? Hell no. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, I'm just not wired like that. But
well, that was getting back to that too. Back in 20, my stepfather was quite ill, and it was obviously imminent that he was going to, if that's the right way to say it, that he was going to pass. And hospice had become involved at the house and gave us the prescriptions and everything to do it. And one of the things that they did do, which I thought was really good, is they gave him the anti-anxiety medications like through the roof, which that was actually kind of a beautiful thing, because you actually got to see him let go of all his anxieties and machismo that came along with being a product of the 60s and early 70s type of guy. He was able to let that go, and we actually had a really great conversation with him that evening. And then they were telling us, like you said, about what to prescribe and when to prescribe it, and it felt very orchestrated to the end, and even to the point where it created baggage for me, because I don't know if I did or didn't have the ability or the wherewithal to follow through with the instructions in that, whereas my sister did. And it created a real mind game with me for quite a while in regards to my sister. Like, did she do this? Because she was the one that got to administer the stuff. And I'm like, it felt, the early part of it with the anti-anxiety medicine felt compassionate. The end of it didn't feel compassionate, but I also, as people will argue, the end is going to come. But I don't know that we're supposed to be the God that chooses when that is.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, there was a video, I'll never forget it, when I was taking my history courses, and this is, I was an older student, and they were talking about this tribe in Africa, and it was well before the modern era had infiltrated their way of life or whatever. Nomadic, moved around, the desert and everything. And what they would do is if someone in the group or tribe, I guess it was what you call them, it couldn't travel any longer, they would build a fenced area around them so that the animals wouldn't get to them, and they would just leave them there to die.
Mm-hmm. But they died naturally.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know how natural it is there. I mean, you're starving them. You're just leaving them in the middle of the sun to dehydrate and not give them food. I mean, what's the difference between starving somebody and shooting them up with drugs or putting them... I mean, and again, the standard's weird because if you think about pets, which we talked about on a previous episode, see how I bring it back to a previous episode, please leave a comment. But we don't really have the huge issue with putting the pets down because we feel like that we're the ones that are the owners or the
charges,
the whatever, that we're going to make the responsible decision, and the responsible decision is to put them down. Now, I had 3 cats die. 2 of them died right before we were going to take them because their organs were shutting down. The 2 that died before I had to take them, I mean, this sounds horrible, but I was like, whew, I don't have to deal with that. And then the 3rd one was hit by a car, and its spine was broken, and 20 some odd years old cat, and it was like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, the cat was a lively cat. I mean, it ran around the neighborhood. I couldn't picture my cat not being able to walk. And
so he mortgaged his home and got an extra 3 months out of the cat. Am I right?
No.
Okay.
We put him down. Put her down. Talia.
I have people that I know that have done things like that.
My son has a dog that he has paid, I think, almost $7,000 on cancer treatments for. But, I at one point said, I think you're crazy. But he said, my wife has cancer, and I didn't give up on her.
Yeah.
And I that was his mentality, and I can't argue with that.
Right.
But I also, if he had put the dog down, I don't know that I would have argued with that decision either.
And I think that's kind of the point of this discussion. Much like a lot of them, there's no answer. There's no answer. There's no easy answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sit here sit here in my faith and say natural life to natural death.
Right.
But when it comes right down to it, A, when is the natural death? And B, how long do you want to let people suffer?
For sure.
I mean, even getting into mental illness issues and stuff like that, like severe mental illness issues that people are going through, leading to whatever, whether it's drug or alcohol addiction, and then they try to end the life themselves just because they don't want to be living like that.
Yeah, but you bring up another point that you're going down a slippery slope in the sense that if you begin to have these cottage industries of assisted suicide or suicide homes, and then you're going to start having certain people that are going to justify it and whatnot. I mean, you're drawing a thin line between eugenics, which was the predecessor to the Holocaust, and it's not a leap, it's a step, because again, like you said, you could say at what point is somebody's life no longer valuable to society where we could say to them, oh, you're in X amount of pain, so you should go to Tom's Airbnb and we'll give you the drugs to get you out of the pain, i.e. we'll kill you or end your life, I should say. Kill you, I guess it depends on your perspective. But so who are those people? Do you start targeting drug users, like you said? Or you start targeting people that are habitually unemployed? Do you start looking at criminals that way? Do you give the option to a criminal when they're sentenced after committing a crime? Hey, Jack, you're a murderer. We'll give you an option: assisted suicide or life in prison. It's a tough one, man. Like I get what you're saying when you hear like a state has actually allowed it, but I'm sure there's other countries. I mean, we didn't do any background research, at least I didn't, that euthanasia has been legal. But man, I think that's the part that scares me the most, is that when you do A, normalize it, or B, commercialize it, because the commercialization is the scarier fact to me, because if there's money to be made, look at these people. Well, there's the couple of old ladies in California that would take in old homeless men and put life insurance policies on them and kill them, and they collect the life insurance policy.
I had not heard that one.
It's out there. Yeah, there's a whole podcast series on it. So I don't know. Is that related to the topic? I think so.
Yeah, it kind of is.
I mean, it really is.
We're allowed not to be anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I listen to one of our old ones, and I can't figure out how we ended up pulling off the topic on it.
But I mean, if you got an Airbnb for suicidal people or people that are going to be euthanized, I mean, what do you have to do to stay in business?
Yeah. Well, they've gone so far. Apparently in Oregon, they've gone so far as to allow out of state people to travel into state to do it too. So you have to, from what I understood, you have to travel there, stay there for a minimum of 2 weeks, and get a doctor's prescription while you're there for the 2 weeks, and that's how the industry cropped up, because people needed a place to stay for the 2 weeks.
Well, here's where my mind travels as well. And when it goes into dark places, I don't trust health insurance companies because I think there's situations where it makes more financial sense for them to put somebody out of their. It kind of goes back to the dog. Okay, so what do? You got a dog gets cancer, $7,000. You keep the dog for an extra 4 or 5 years.
Right. If it's out of your pocket, it's fine. You spend it.
But you spent it. You still have to make a financial
right. There's no
decision.
Insurance company to say, oh no, we can't do that.
But even if you're an insurance company, you have a choice of giving somebody aggressive cancer treatment at potentially millions of dollars, or figuring out a way to get them to take the other route, which is either hospice or assisted suicide. So it would be in the best interest of health insurance companies, which are designed to make money, these supposed not-for-profits that can afford to sponsor stadiums. You know, I go to a football stadium called Highmark Stadium. It's a health insurance
Speaking
company.
of which, did you get your season tickets yet this year?
Not yet.
Did you price your season tickets yet this year?
Oh, you mean for this coming year?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's not much. I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
They're not doing the PSLs for us this year. Excuse me. Hopefully I edit that cough out. But
he won't. It'll still be in here.
You made me lose my train of thought, kind of. But it ultimately comes down to, I mean, even now, when it comes to health insurance, I mean, there's been times where I've needed an MRI, or a family member has needed something, and the health insurance company will deny it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not making that decision based on what the need is for the patient. They're making it based on their willingness to pay. So, again, would they be willing to pay to have somebody go to Oregon and have their life ended prematurely?
Right.
I think it makes complete financial sense.
Cost them $10,000 to do that versus $100,000 to try to save their life for 2 or 3 years.
Sure.
Or 5 years.
That's where it gets scary. And nobody wants socialized medicine, so there you go.
Well, that was one of the things that the program was saying, that he was kind of putting a warning out there for people like in New York State, like we are, and stuff like that, where it doesn't seem like it's going to be a very real thing. Like, they won't really do it here. And he's like, no, they're really going to do it here. Especially in New York, as liberal leading as it is currently.
And listen, I'm as liberal as they get. I'm probably closer to moderate, but
I don't think Thom is as liberal as he thinks he is. I don't think most liberals are as close as they think they are when push comes to shove.
I don't think liberal is a bad word. We'll put it that way.
Well, no, I don't think so either. Christ was a pretty liberal guy.
But if you look at many of the quote unquote liberal reforms, at the end of the day, they still are about the finances. So, for example, New York State bail reform. Okay, bail reform says basically, okay, when we used to require cash bail and you would have to stay in county jail or whatever for a certain period of time, we're going to eliminate that because it levels the playing field. So if you got Jack Burris, you got Thom Jennings. Jack Burris is a multi-millionaire. Thom Jennings is living paycheck to paycheck. You throw me in jail. It's kind of an unfair punishment because you can just afford to be bailed out. So that's the premise, okay? But the reality is it has more to do with the cost associated with housing these prisoners, because if you're in county jail, even for the weekend, and you got a toothache, you get to go to the dentist, and it's all paid for by taxpayer dollars. So they sell it as this grand reform to kind of even things out in the system and help oppress people and poor people and minorities and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just a cost-saving measure. How many times am I going to say at the end of the day in this?
At the end of the day, I don't know, until you have your come to Jesus moment, I guess.
My favorite expression. But no, I believe that wholeheartedly. I think it, you show me a reform, and I will show you a profit motive behind it, or a cost savings motive.
Well, I think we've pretty much managed to alienate or piss everybody off that we possibly can with this podcast.
Don't know that we have. If we have, please email us your angry emails.
Yeah, we'll be sure to notice it because nobody ever sends us anything.
I miss it. When I was writing an op-ed column when I first started writing newspaper columns, I used to get these like multi-paragraph letters from emails from people that were, I mean, they were scary. Like to the point where I'm glad they didn't know where I lived, although they probably could have figured it out. But yeah, when it comes to certain things, people are very opinionated. But it really comes down to, like we said, this isn't Jack and Tom preaching the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you think you have an answer, please let us know what it is.
Yeah, we're saying that this is a disturbing situation, which I would think that most reasonable people would at least agree with that aspect of it, like the fact that you can legally go to one state and just, rent a house to die in. It's kind of creepy.
Well, they're going to say that, there's safety nets in place and stuff like that, but
unsettling.
But it's financially motivated.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm not renting my house out. I mean, if it was a we're getting, is that the signal to end?
Yeah.
Oh,
very good.
I thought you were going to have an alarm. Yeah, I know. Between this episode and the next one, I got to get a drink because my throat's getting dry. But we'll wrap up with, again, these types of things. I think the terms I just used is it's very unsettling, and you have to be able to look at them in a way that you can discuss them to make sure that it's not just some person trying to make money. But if they were trying to do something benevolent, then there would be no charge to use the house for the assisted suicide. It'd be some rich person that was just donating it. But this is clearly for people that want to make money, from what you've told me. I don't know. And if you're in Oregon and you own one of these houses, don't put me on your email list, please.
Yeah, if you're in Oregon and you own one of these houses, let us know you're listening.
Let us know you're listening. You're killing me out there in Oregon.
Of course, it's probably corporately owned anyway.
Probably. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
All right, with that being said, don't forget, if you like our episodes or if you hate us, comment, share, do all that kind of stuff. We forget to mention every episode, but I do want to say a quick special thanks to our CFox people for letting us use the wonderful theme music. Please support their music, CFox. You can find it on Bandcamp and other places like that. And anything else you want to say, Jack?
Nope.